we're really going to find out what are the true origins of Juneteenth. People have been celebrating Juneteenth, and unfortunately, a great component of how Juneteenth started has been buried. But we have the information for you today. You're going to find out all the details, how we got to Juneteenth. So we got to go back as to why the Juneteenth holiday even took place. It has to do with the emancipation of Black people being liberated from slavery. So how did all this come about? Now, taking place that Black people were living under captivity as slaves in this country, and there was much atrocity taking place. And just because they wrote in their history books that it was Lincoln who freed the slaves, we're here to tell you that is not the case. Lincoln did not free Black people from slavery. No matter how many books they write saying the same thing. Here are some of the facts. Fact number one, our people in this country had a split idea as to how they would get themselves out of slavery. Two different points of view. One point of view was to work with the people who had put them in bondage by integrating with them and working with them in such causes like abolitionist organizations that wanted to help African Americans to attain freedom from slavery, and some of them were even put together by Black people who were integrationists like Harriet Tubman, who put together an underground railroad that allowed Black people to escape from captivity and gain their freedom. So that was one of the main perspectives that our people was pursuing. But that was not the only one. I said we were split. That was one. The other one that was quite different was having our people break away from this country, do not join the integration, but keep the segregation and keep us as an independent nation. That's right. Those people, the nationalists, they wanted to form their own country. And that's why their route of getting this accomplished was to go to war with the people that had kept them in captivity. And you've seen that over and over again. Such names that are probably most familiar are people like Nat Turner, Denmark Vesey, Gabriel Prosser, people like that build militias to form a separate country from America. So these two were happening at the same time. They never joined forces with each other because their views were opposing views. They weren't opposing to each other, just the goals were opposing. And the people moved forward, figuring out how can we get our liberation? How can we end slavery for our people? Well, it just so happened there was a plan that was executed by a man named Cato, K-A-T-O. And that's the name you want to remember, because that's the name that really liberated our people from slavery, a man by the name of Cato. And who was Cato? Cato was a man that was living in the state of Texas. And he, like many people like him, throughout the ages, wanted to have our own country, and they were willing to fight to get it done. So Cato came up with a plan of how we're going to accomplish this independence, to abolish slavery for ourselves. Not depend on this government, but they're going to do it themselves as a people. This was the plan. They decided they're going to take away the most important thing from those who kept them in captivity, which was their wealth. The mass wealth that they got through enslaving Black people, they decided to destroy it. We destroy their wealth, we take away their strength, and we can start organizing and forming our country. That was the plan. And this happened in the state of Texas, and it started with a man named Cato. He led this movement in the city of Dallas, Texas, and the plan was to be executed throughout the entire state of Texas. And it happened. On July the 8th, of 1860, the plan was put into place by Cato. It started in Dallas. They decided to burn everything of value in that city. In the city came a fire. Plantation owners woke up that morning and saw the city in blaze. And they started to panic about what was taking place. And it was so great, they started getting reports that other cities nearby were experiencing the same thing. And it continued from north part of Texas and Dallas all the way down south. Reports were coming in continuously how other cities were being burnt by their slaves. And it happened in one day. And the date was July 8th, 1860. Cato was the man that planned this program. It became such hatred against black people. That day, on July the 8th, pushed the Confederates to war. In the year 1861, on April 12th, 9 months later, after July 8th, when they fought to liberate our people, the plan of decimating their resources. And it worked. And from that war came the emancipation because of the efforts of our people. In particular, the man that led that program, Mr. Cato. He made it happen, and because of him, slavery was abolished, and that is what caused us to be a free people. And from now on, we are going to celebrate July 8th, the day of our freedom, and we're going to give complete honor to our liberator, Cato himself. July 8th is the day of celebration by the liberator of black people, Mr. Cato. That's what all of us who wanted freedom should be celebrating, even though we had two different points of views, an integrationist perspective and a separatist perspective, but the separatists were the one that caused the end of slavery, and all of us should celebrate July 8th. Now let's get back to, how does it get us back to Juneteenth? Well, it's quite clear that after the emancipation was proclaimed, the state of Texas, the state that actually launched the abolishment of slavery because of the efforts of Mr. Cato, now became a target. Texas, they restricted that communication, they restricted the union from getting to their state as long as they can, to show them that even though you have been emancipated, we're going to still hold you against your will. And it remained a secret to our people. That was a retaliation against what Cato accomplished. Because of his efforts, we were liberated. We were no longer slaves. A retaliation from the state of Texas, because the state that caused the liberation of our people by the man, Mr. Cato, they retaliated after the abolishment of slavery and wanted to keep our people continuously as long as they could because of what happened in 1860. That's the origins of Juneteenth. Juneteenth is quite a horrible experience because our people were held longer than they should have according to the law of the U.S. But Texas, because of Mr. Cato, will always be in history and is celebrating on the 8th of July. That's the time to celebrate. That's the time to rejoice because we did this. We freed ourselves. They never wanted to, and they refused to do it. Remember, we freed ourselves. The man to give credit is Mr. Cato in 1860, July 8th.